Hey guys, so today I wanted to discuss the INTP personality. I feel like I say this about every type, but it's true. I know a lot of INTPs, or at least more so than I think most people do, because they are a rare type. I think INTJ, INTJ, INFJ, and INTP are the rarest types, if I'm not mistaken. So that being said, I do know quite a few. My dad is actually an INTP, so I have grown up with INTPs my whole life. I have analyzed them. I have been close to many INTPs. Personally, as an INFJ, I have found that INTPs typically like me, both romantically and as friends. They seem to gravitate towards me, and I think that's also true for other INFJs, and that has to do with their Socionics relationship, but I won't get into that right now. So, which, by the way, in Socionics, it would be, the P and the J would be switched. So don't get it confused. Don't think looking up INFJ and INTP in Socionics would be the same thing, because in Socionics, as I've said before, INFJs are INFPs, and INTPs are INTJs. So I know that's confusing, but I'll get into, as promised, a Socionics video in the future. So I think in order to describe the INTP as precisely as I can in this kind of introductory way is first starting off with their functions. INTPs lead with introverted thinking. That is their primary function, which is TI. Their secondary function is NE, extroverted intuition. Their tertiary or third function is introverted sensing, SI. And their final function, their fourth function, is extroverted feeling, FE. So, as TI thinkers, the other type that leads with TI first is an ISTP. Both like to perceive, well, it's a judging function, TI is a judging function, but they like to see the world, and they want to know why something is the way it is. So they like to break things down, just to have the knowledge. Like, for example, my dad is a emergency medicine doctor, so he was super into science and math. He's very scientifically minded. He actually went to pharmacy school first and became a pharmacist, and then went back to medical school. So that being said, he was very interested in just understanding the concepts and the knowledge, not necessarily for the end goal, but just because he wanted to absolutely know how, just break every single system down. And that's what I've seen about a lot of INTPs. There is an INTP that is coming to mind. I used to work with her recently, and she is a computer science major. And I can just tell by the way she talks about coding and all of that other stuff. It's very fun for her, and she just loves to not necessarily make the code, which, I mean, I think she does enjoy. It's the idea of making the code. It's the process in which she's able to break it down and really understand why something is the way it is. and this goes for, like, for example, my dad, he has an intense hobby with guitar. I don't know how great he is at actually playing the guitar. From what I know, he's okay, but he's been studying the guitar for years, like has to be close to 10 years by now. But for him, actually I think it's over 10 years, wow. He has read every single music book out there that relates to guitar. He is so concerned with the theory and understanding the guitar. And when he was trying to explain or get me into playing guitar, he wasn't so much. I see other people who would just pick up chords or just learn how to play the guitar via chords or just kind of do it. He's not really into that. He wants to understand the music in its entirety and how music theory works. He's obsessed with music theory and really breaking it down, which is very different than a common mistype, and that is a lot of INTPs and vice versa type as INTJs, which this is a huge point when thinking about whether you're an INTJ or an INTP. As I've expressed with the INTP personality, they're more concerned with they're not really concerned with the end goal. They're more concerned with how something works and using their TI to really get to the underlying mechanisms of something. Whereas the INTJ, they have an end goal in mind. They're doing things because, to better themselves, yeah, but they want to, let's say my dad's just learning how to play the guitar because he's so obsessed with understanding music theory and all this other stuff. To an INTJ, they would almost think of that as a waste of time. They're like, okay, but can you play guitar? Are you good at guitar? Which again, not to bash on my dad's skills, but I don't think he's that great at guitar from what I know. Maybe he's amazing, I have no idea. I haven't really heard him too much, but an INTJ would want to be a master at guitar in the external world. They would want to be as good at guitar as they could, and they have a reason for doing that. I don't know if that example made sense. Hopefully it did. Also, another contrast to the INTJ and the INTP personality is INTPs, because of extrovert intuition, they're more so, they have a lot of hobbies. Not saying that INTJs don't, but INTJs are a little bit more focused on the end goal, like I said, whereas INTPs are interested in all kinds of things. And to me, and I'm not saying that this is true, this is just stereotype that I've kind of witnessed, I see INTPs as the more traditional nerdy person than, let's say, an INTJ. INTJs are also nerdy, but they have, this isn't the word, but I'm gonna use it anyways. INTJs have a little bit more swagger and confidence, at least in my view, when it comes to presenting themselves. They're a little bit more focused on how they appear to others, whether they want to admit that or not. They put a lot of pride into things, and they are perfectionistic and confident in what they're doing, or at least they want it to appear so. INTPs aren't as much concerned about that. They're not as much concerned about appearances. It is a stereotype, but I have once witnessed this. Not saying that INTPs aren't into physical fitness and all that other stuff, but INTPs have a stereotype of being more lazy. And I can kind of attest to that. they're a little bit more sloppy. Again, these are stereotypes, but another distinction. And I don't know, I really like INTPs. I get along really well with them. INTPs are they really love having conversation with people. And for some reason, especially INFJs, they love having conversations with INFJs. And I will have to say this, and I'm sorry to my INTP friends, particularly the guys, but I just have to say this. I have found that INTP guys, specifically, at least from my INFJ experience, tend to be the most, they constantly want to have a conversation with me. And it's not a two-way conversation. It's like they want to tell their life story and be, they kind of bombard me on social media. So let's say Facebook. Anytime I'm on Facebook, or it's not so much now, but there are a few INTPs that are coming to mind that it seems like every single time I'm on Facebook, they're like, like telling me everything about, you know, what's going on in their life and all this stuff. And yeah, I do like to hear that stuff, but again, it's not really a two-way conversation. It's almost like, okay, I'll get into this. I just can't help myself with Socionics. So again, when we're thinking about Socionics, in Socionics, INTPs are INTJs. It's the same functions except for in Socionics uses the primary function to determine whether it is a J or a P at the end, whereas in Myers-Briggs they use the first extroverted function to determine whether it is a J or a P. And in Myers-Briggs, an INTP's extroverted or first extroverted function is extroverted intuition, which is a perceiving function, whereas in Socionics it uses an INTP's primary function, which is TI, which is a judging function. That is why in Socionics an INTP is an INTJ, and an INFJ and Myers-Briggs, their first extroverted function is FE, which is a judging function, so hence the J. But in Socionics, an INFJ is an INFP because NI is a perceiving function, and that is a primary function, introverted intuition. So I'm going to go back, I know this is confusing, but I'm going to go back to Myers-Briggs terminology when I'm talking about Socionics, just to keep this all together. But so the INTP and the INFJ relationship in Socionics, again, INTJ, INFP, is a relationship of benefactor and a beneficiary relationship. So the INTP benefits from the relationship with the INFJ. So the INFJ is the benefactor, the INTP is the beneficiary. So this is an asymmetrical relationship where the INTP gets more out of the relationship than the INFJ does from the relationship. So when I go back to the idea that so many INTPs tend to just bombard me on social media, I guess because I do listen to people and I read their stuff, their comments and all this stuff, and I really do truly care about people, but over and 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 over, it does get a little boring. Especially INTPs, for some reason, I'm not saying that other types don't do this either, but the INTPs on Facebook, the majority of them that bombard me also are the ones that say, "Hey beautiful, how are you doing, precious," whatever, whatever little thing like that, and I'm just like, ugh. But besides the point, I've also seen that with my dad. I love talking to my dad, and it's like we have a lot in common, and it's very interesting, and I think he actually has very good advice and all this stuff when it comes to giving advice to me or other people. Not necessarily that he takes that advice, but anyways, but he gets kind of upset that I don't call him all the time, and it's because when I talk to him on the phone, he talks for hours and hours and hours and hours, and yeah, it's more of a back and forth conversation with my dad, but it is, if I let him, and he was free, again, he works a lot, he works like 80-90 hours a week, so he doesn't have that much free time, but if I did allow him to, he would literally talk for I don't even know how long. We have had very long conversations, and I'm not saying I don't have long conversations with other types, but anytime I talk to him, it's like I can't have shorter than maybe a 20 to 30 minute conversation, and that's probably if one of us is in a rush or something. But yeah, going off of that, so INTPs are contemplative in a different way than the INFJ or the INTJ. Again, my dad is super just interested in understanding the underlying meaning of things, and he's also like that when it comes to religion. He is pretty religious, and INTPs, their fourth function, their last function is introverted sensing, and that is, not introverted sensing, extroverted feelings. So I have found with a lot of INTPs, they do lack a sense of tact when it comes to talking about feelings. They can be seen as cold in a different way than, say, an INTJ. It's hard for me to explain, but it's just they are not very good at using extroverted feeling, so it's hard for them to express themselves emotionally. And although for most INTPs they can be very even-keeled, and they can be charming, and people do generally like them because they're also kind of have this quirky nerdiness to them that is very charming. But when they do express an intense emotion, it's very difficult for them to do so. So it can come off a little bit more extreme than they intended because they don't have a very good grasp on extroverted feeling. And their tertiary function, introverted sensing, they can become a creature of habit. They love, in a way, they do love their routine. They have certain things that they may like for years and years and years. I do find with the INTP, with INTPs, they do tend to hold on to, let's say, clothing. I've seen this with other INTPs, but again, my dad is such a good example because I know him so well. But if he was able to, he would have the same clothes for the rest of his life. He'll let them get holes in them, all kinds of stuff. He doesn't care. He just loves what he loves. Also, he is obsessed with pretzels and things like that, and it's just like been consistent. And another thing is, my dad has literally always had a mustache since he could grow a mustache, and it's like this thick mustache. He shaved it, I think, twice in my entire life, and it was like looking at a different person. It was insane. But yeah. Again, I don't know, there's just so much I can say in these videos, but yeah, INTPs are incredible. Some of the most intelligent people I know, and some of the most intelligent people in, let's say, pop culture or beyond, are INTPs. Albert Einstein is a good example of one, and the world would not be as great of a place without them, because again, there are obviously the good and the bad of each type, but I love INTPs and they are amazing. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I didn't offend too many people with my kind of descriptions or experiences with the INTP personality. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if you're an INTP, or if you know INTPs well, what your experiences are, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.